All right, what's going on, guys? Today's Tuesday. It's the 30th. I think it's the last day of the month. Is there 31 days in July? There's 31 days in July. All right, not the last day of the month, but kicking off today, we finally have a breakout of the range that Bitcoin was stuck in for a while, right? We've been trading in a very low volatility environment. I'm just going to highlight this in white for everyone that's been trading or just looking at the prices or, wondering when the market's going to move. For the since the 27th, really, past 2 or 3 days, really since the weekend kicked off, Bitcoin has been stuck in between 93 or 9,400 and 95, 9,600, right? Very, very tight trading range and kind of waiting for that direction. As I said yesterday, right, for me, it's whenever we kind of have price coiling at a certain level, and there was that high impact news event, which I'll cover. Sure, if you have a setup, if price is right along support and you think it makes sense to position before it, go for it. Exact same thing to the downside. For me, though, when we were kind of right below a key resistance and also right along high time frame support, I kind of wanted to see the reaction first out of this smaller range, you can call it that, right? 96.50 down to 93. Wanted to see the reaction. It looks like we're getting it right now. This might be a fake out. Everything can always be a fake out. There are no guarantees in trading. But to me, looking at this objectively and giving my honest opinion, I do think that this is positive. I like it, especially if this will happen in 30 minutes. I just didn't want to wait any longer to put out the video, especially if this 4-hour candle is able to close above 96.50. Let's just think back to the range one more time. I swear this is going to be the last time I bring up the range. There's probably some people that have watched every day and say, damn, he talks about this damn range all the time. But in terms of high time frame structure, right, Bitcoin bouncing back and forth for nearly a full month straight, and that's a very ugly squiggle, but really it follows this line of 13K was pretty much the highest we've been, 96.50 is pretty much the lowest we've been. Obviously, there was a 24-hour period we were below that, but really up until, the past weekend, right, 96.50 was the cheapest, 13K is the most expensive, so that's the range we're in. As we've been below that for, 2 or 3 days, my thought process was, okay, we're below this range low, right? So to me, off the bat, that's bearish or neutrally bearish, right? I'm not ready to slap on shorts, but it's not a good thing when price is starting to trade below kind of this range that has been established, right? I generally don't like to see that. But if all of a sudden price can reclaim this range, and now as I say this, I'm seeing a slight sell-off, right? I still think it will. If price can reclaim this range, I think that this action starts to look very, very similar to what we had 10 or now 11 days ago, right? And what I mean by that is if you think about this white line as the range low, right, or even if you don't kind of consider ranges, literally think about it as a normal support, right? Think about that level as just a support, nothing else. The outlook here is, right, if this support was lost and then immediately, going back to 10 or 11 days ago, immediately we regain it. We have that 4-hour close. I'm going to zoom in on it so you can see it. Right, we have that 4-hour candle close back above as this level is reclaimed. All I mean by reclaimed was support gave out, right? Price traded through it. Generally, that's bearish. It's not a good thing. Right? There's a move down, and then immediately it rebounds. And right when it's reclaimed, you can start to see these candles now respecting that support. Right? Some are wicking through, but all the closes are still happening back above 96.50 now. Right? Meaning that level, as we sold off, we have our close back above. Okay, we respect that level again, can move up. Fast forward to today, respect the level, respect the level, respect the level, and then over the weekend, right, we obviously broke down from 96.50, making me at least, take a step back, say this is bearish. If anything, if you're very bullish, you could say it's neutral. I don't think it was positive at all to see price breaking down from here. But in the same way, 10 days ago, we had the reclaim at 96.50, right? I think it's happening again. Granted, we still have 30 minutes on the clock for this 4-hour, but I like to use these 4-hour and these daily time frames. It's not the only system. It's not the only way to look at the market. Sure, there can still be fake outs all the time. But to me, it gives me a little bit of clarity. And I also just add weight, add significance to the higher time frame candles because it drowns out some of the noise, right? Some of the intraday noise that's going on. So Bitcoin, that 4-hour close, I think is pretty crucial. The daily close, even more so, right? If you go back to the daily candle on that day, right now, just taking one step even more zoomed out, right? 10 days ago, when we lost this level, price reclaimed it. Immediately the following day, we had a very nice move higher. Right? So price reclaiming this support, I think, is not only a a technical level that makes me more bullish. I think it's also a huge kind of confidence factor for the rest of the market of if this is the range low, right, that we traded at for nearly a month and price can reclaim this after losing it as support. I think it's kind of a confidence booster, even if you're not a short-term trader, right, if you're an investor. But also for the traders, I do like this level a lot. That's why I'm focused on it. So for Bitcoin, I know yesterday I kind of said I wanted to let the news clear. If anyone was following that hearing, none of the news I think that came out was, I don't think you could say outright that it was outright bearish or outright bullish, right? Pretty much they just extended it, I think, another 90 days where the New York Attorney General can continue to kind of investigate Bitfinex or iFinex or anything that's happening there, right? So nothing conclusive. It's not a hearing. It wasn't a trial. It was a hearing. It's not a trial or anything like that. Frank Chaparro and a couple other guys covered this. Pretty much it just was the court deciding whether or not they're actually going to continue to pursue iFinex and Bitfinex, right? So I don't think there's anything that I can actually look at the news and say, okay, that was positive news that came out or that was negative news. And I know some people were listening and saying, the news doesn't matter anyways, just trade the chart and all this stuff. News does have an effect, right? You can attach a narrative to anything. I know it's not the only thing that's driving the markets, but I do think that news has an effect. But since the outcome was, I think, as down the middle as you can have it, not positive, not overly negative. A lot of lawyers commented and said the same thing. I don't know. I don't think there's anything we can really take from that. So I'm just trusting the chart again, right? And Bitcoin, which has been weak, if you go back to last week, my coverage, and I know this is probably how a lot of you guys are viewing the market, right? Last week or last 10 days, this is what we've had after putting an equal high around 10.9, right? Equal high at 10.9. We just continually kind of found lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, no reaction, right? I think that this is kind of the first step, if we are able to reclaim this level, that maybe reverses that action. And what I'm looking for now, if Bitcoin can reclaim this, right, it doesn't mean it has to be exactly like last time we reclaim and just have an explosive, $1,000 move or $1,300 move. But, even if, it could very well be a fake out, right? It could very well reclaim be a fake out. But, I'm going to play this kind of straight up in the sense that if we do have this close above, I am going to view this level as reclaimed now. And as long as I'm having, 4-hour closes anywhere above this 96.50, right? That's just what I use as my invalidation. Some people use a hard stop. Some people use dailies. Some people use any kind of system, right? I'm just kind of passing along my outlook, not trade advice. Above 96.50, I continue to like Bitcoin's upside. And I start to look towards the 10.9, 10.8 zone again. And the nice thing about if price can reclaim this, right? I still don't want to get too ahead of the chart. But if price can reclaim this and we continue to trade above 96.50 right, this week and going into the end of the week, obviously we have to see how this progresses and I'll cover it every single day. But if Bitcoin does stay above 96.50, right, and we do drift higher, the first area I'm targeting is going to be this 10.9, 10.8. So it's going to be about $1,000 or $1,300 higher. Right, looking for a move like this. That's just the most recent swing high resistance. It's also, if you go back in the range, this has just been a very important pivot 5 or 6 times. Right, it's kind of our first resistance, flip support, and now it's been kind of this double top we have right here. So that's the first area I'd be aiming for if price can continue to maintain and reclaim this 96.50. As long as it's above there, I want to stay long, or I'm looking for longs, however you want to think about that. My outlook is bullish, aiming for that. And the other thing that I start thinking about, once again, not trying to get too far ahead of the charts or have FOMO or hopium or anything like that, just looking at the chart objectively, if price does reclaim this, right, and we start trending slightly higher, we do have 2 or 3 days of a move higher, all of a sudden, right, I was a little bit surprised that price kind of rejected here immediately after. We have 2 tests this 10.9. I do think the third test of this level within 2 weeks pretty much, or 7 or 10 days, I think that this level would actually probably break. So the nice thing about this, if price continues to hold 96.50, right? I'm not just wanting to be long when we're above 96.50 and praying, and if it goes down, I'm wrecked, right? This is my risk management. As long as you're above 96.50, I want to be long. And the expectation is that if we do get up there again, the third test of this level within 10, 11, 12 days, barring some crazy kind of new range or whatever it is, I think that this level has a much higher likelihood of being taken out on that third test. Volatility has been insanely low. I think that an expansion might bring back some of that volatility. So the nice part about this is if it is above 96.50, as long as this trade doesn't get invalidated, I think the upside here is quite nice on this swing. All right, so I actually like Bitcoin now. This is probably my favorite chart going into the rest of the week. Once again, I'm not holding my breath, but the area that I'm focused on, the time frame that I'm focused on, in 30 minutes, we have that 4-hour close. And obviously for the rest of the day, I want to see the daily close above this level. It's important for me, right? And whether or not that plays into your strategy, that's up to you. But that's my outlook, right? As long as we're above 96.50, I really like it. I think you guys can understand in the context of the range why, even if you don't think about price in a range and you just prefer, horizontal levels, if that's easier for you to follow, right? Think about this as kind of a support, major support. Last time we lost this and we were able to reclaim it, we had a very nice move. It's also the level that was respected all last week. And now for the past 3 or 4 days, we lost it. As we reclaim this level, to me, that's a nice sign. And as long as we're holding this level, I like being long. Right? Hopefully that makes sense, how I'm kind of being fluid there with the trend, how I'm kind of thinking about a price level breaking, and now once again reclaiming. As long as it's holding, I would like to be long. Right. That's the outlook on Bitcoin. I do like Bitcoin here. I'm quite excited about this, if you can't tell. Past that, right, the theme of last week, now hitting on the idea of last week, EOS and ADA were definitely my favorite swings. They were also the two biggest swings. I covered going into the weekend why EOS, to me, made more sense as a fade because, even if they both dropped, right, I imagine EOS would have fallen further. ADA was the other play, right? Very similar. I mean, you can honestly kind of think of the Bitcoin idea as the ADA and EOS ideas last week, right? For those of you guys who were in here last week, and there's some new people and are saying, man, what is this? What's he talking about? These were two trades from last week, right? ADA looked like this, invalidation below the support. As long as this level's holding, I just want to ride it, hopefully get my full 25%. I'm going to cover my thoughts on this currently now, as it's only up 7 or 8%. And then also EOS gave us that 15%, exact same trade. I just caught EOS a lot earlier, right? And really kind of the same outlook of Bitcoin, right? This level was lost as support. As price reclaims it, right? Price reclaims that support. This is that invalidation, right? This is when we played EOS last week, 23rd. And looking to run it either to that full 25%, or we talked about going to the weekend. I liked it at 15%. I know it went a couple of percent higher, so maybe I gave up some profit, but oh well. Right? It's still sitting at 10%. So both plays, up 10, 15%, and up 7%. As I look at EOS and ADA now, and I even mentioned XRP this morning on Twitter, right? As I look at those major alts, and in my opinion, their ability to do well, right? These major alts, with the expectation that these things are doing well in a window, right? It's not all season. It's a window. If you zoom out, look at the daily, the weekly on any of these major alts, it's not anything that has you, crazy excited about catching a 2x gain or, every alt's going to go on a rip or anything like that. Understand that, any alt movement that we've had for the past 3 months, for the past 9 months, going into this month, right? I just view everything as kind of an alt window. So the gains we've had here, 10, 15%, and ADA 7%, if Bitcoin rises, right? If Bitcoin can reclaim this and start to move up, which I think is more likely now, especially if price closes above here, I have to kind of respect that and think back to last week. The idea here on why I wanted to play EOS and run it for 15%, and why I thought this support could hold, and why I wanted to play ADA right after that, and why I thought this support could hold and prices would move up, was because Bitcoin was weak. Right? Bitcoin was not able to bounce. Bitcoin looked like it was going to break support. Bitcoin had no kind of buying pressure. It had no pop. Right? This is what was happening for Bitcoin. So as this is happening for Bitcoin, right, it makes me think, okay, this isn't too attractive to trade. It looks weak. I don't really want to be shorting support. What can I play that will, looks like it's starting to turn around or has good momentum and is cheap, right? And is probably an easier trade. And as Bitcoin slides, right, that makes me think, okay, major alts can actually probably do okay. So that was the theme last week, right? EOS and ADA. I'm not attached to that. I don't like either of these plays anymore. I can't advise you to do anything. I mean, I know some of you guys probably don't even trade anyways, but for the guys who do and were following along with ADA or EOS or any major alt you liked or any alt you liked and kind of rode that bounce as the theme last week, right? Just updating my outlook and always keeping you current. as Bitcoin reclaims this, it's kind of the opposite of the scenario that I think we had last week, which was a weak Bitcoin, right? It's rejected at this most recent swing high. There are no bounces, lower lows, lower highs, and that opens up the door for alts to do okay. Now, the opposite scenario, if this level's reclaimed, right? If we have a scenario like last week, if this level's reclaimed or 10 days ago, and prices start to move up, all of a sudden, I think that door slams shut on those alts upside, right? I don't think the alts will do well. I could be wrong there, but once again, just passing on the exact same system that helped me catch the EOS and the 88 last week. It's just that, but inverse, right? As Bitcoin gets back, everyone's aware of it for the past, ever since April. If Bitcoin's trending higher, alts just do not keep pace right now with Bitcoin. They just can't, and they're still in a downtrend. So that's kind of how I'm viewing the entire market. I was, open to both ideas yesterday. Maybe it's another week where alts can do well. Maybe it's another week that Bitcoin can do well. And both those doors were kind of open. Today, if price can reclaim this, and we stay here for another 15 minutes or so, and for the rest of the day, as long as we're trading above this 96.50, having closes above here, right? To me, I think that now Bitcoin is probably the more attractive table, and it's just the opposite scenario of last week with a weak Bitcoin and alts doing well. If Bitcoin can recover this level and move up, I think that the alt plays are once again unattractive. For me, that means booking profit and getting out of these, right? They were, quick 10, 7% plays. I'll take it. XRP is one I highlighted this morning as looking good. Once again, I think this one's off the table. It didn't even get going for me. It's within 1%. So I'm really not too optimistic or excited about any major alts if Bitcoin starts to move up. In fact, it's the opposite. I'm more excited about Bitcoin's upside as long as we're above 96.50. It's just kind of the opposite theme of last week. All right, so macro-wise, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm thinking for Bitcoin. If you want to hear kind of the devil's advocate or the opposite scenario, which I think is less likely, that I'm not positioned for, but it could happen, right? What if I'm wrong? What happens then? Right? Obviously, I'd be wrong if Bitcoin starts closing back below 96.50, so I would be wrong on Bitcoin, right? Whether that means a 2 or 3% stop out, whether or not there's some kind of nasty sell-off and it gets me at 3 or 4%, I'd be fine with either scenario. Let's say that does happen and Bitcoin does kind of move back down here. Then, okay, we're in the exact same scenario as last week. So I think that's how I'm playing alts in Bitcoin right now. It's a very fluid relationship, and you kind of have to be active if you're going to be playing alts right now. I know that that's uncomfortable for some people, so if it is uncomfortable for you, that's fine, right? Maybe just kind of, you don't have to be trading right now. The markets are still moving very, very slow. There's not a lot of action. So it's not alt season. It's not a time yet where I think you can just sit on your hands, buy an alt, and pray for a 2x. I do think there's opportunities like last week where I'm going to be able to nab 15 or 10% and probably identify those opportunities and hopefully help a ton of you out finding those opportunities as well. But when that window closes, I am not going to sit on my hands and say, well, I hope EOS and 88 continue to go up. Because based on Bitcoin's this bounce, based on this bounce for Bitcoin, based on the entire rise since April, right, Bitcoin doing that, whatever that is, right? Even if it's only $1,000 push, I imagine alts just get hurt. I don't think that they outperform. Even if they stay flat, I just don't think that they outperform. So I think the door kind of closes on some of those alt opportunities. I know that sucks for some people that love to trade alts. But on the flip side, I think Bitcoin's upside is quite nice now as long as we have the closes above here. All right, I'm going to wrap this up just so I don't repeat myself too many times. Hopefully you guys are having a good Tuesday. I'm sending this out right away so you can get it. And yeah, also got some nice feedback as well for the letter. So I appreciate you guys. And yeah, take it easy. Have a good week. I will see you guys same time, a little bit earlier tomorrow, right? I wanted to wait for the breakout. I didn't want to send out another email and say, look, I have to wait for this level. So we finally got it, and sending this out, and I will see you guys normal time tomorrow, which is about 2 hours earlier. All right, peace, guys. Have a good week. I will see you tomorrow.